What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today we've got some brand spanking new Destiny 2 news, courtesy of the Bungie weekly update that just went live, revealing official information. And so, let's get started. Now, first things first, what is going on this week in Destiny 2? Well, the weekly story mission, if you do it, will result in a cutscene and kind of the climax of what's going on this season. So if you haven't done that, definitely get on it. In addition to that, the Lightblade is the current Grandmaster Nightfall available, and it's generally considered to be one of the hardest ones in the game. However, I have done a guide on that, so definitely if you're having trouble, check it out. It is linked up above. However, moving on from there, next week, we're actually going to get the launch of Festival of the Lost, the Halloween free event starting on the Tuesday, October 18th. So, Bungie actually tweeted this picture right here showcasing the 3 brand new mech armor sets that are going to be coming with this Halloween event. And personally, I think they look great, like a throwback to the 90s cartoons and stuff like that. The people who are Team Monster, because remember, these armor sets won in a community vote facing off against the Team Movie Monster armor sets. Team Monster is still salty, so they're all over Twitter upset about these. But something else I want to draw your attention to is that the hunter on the left appears to be holding a brand new sniper rifle. So this is likely the exclusive Festival of the Lost weapon that we're going to be trying to grind and get god rolls for before this event ends, similar to the Braytech Werewolf auto rifle in years past. So that's always cool. And moving on to the brand new information within the TWAB, Bungie also tweeted out this new image of the 3 armor sets showed off. However, moving on from there, on October 11th, it was National Coming Out Day. So to celebrate, Bungie introduced this rainbow transmog effect that you can get by redeeming this code on Bungie.net. Now, moving on from there, we have a big update to materials. So I'm just going to show you guys right here. Starting in Season 19, Dust-like shards, data lattice, helium filaments, barren boughs, spin metal, glacial starwort, all the planetary materials will no longer be available to obtain. So Bungie is going to be removing these planetary materials. You're no longer going to require them to, purchase certain things, upgrade certain things. Just mainly, I think, to clear out your inventory. Like, my consumables tab is almost always full, especially since Bungie can't help but introduce even more consumables every single season, it feels like. So honestly, this is a bit of a welcome change. However, there's kind of a ripple effect from doing this. First off, what about Master Rahul's material exchange? I mean, most of us literally used it to turn legendary fragments into planetary materials and would sometimes buy Glimmer with planetary materials and so on. Well, the material exchange is staying around, and starting in Season 19, you can now exchange 20 destination materials for 5,000 Glimmer, which is a lot less, but that's because at that point they will be kind of depreciated. So what's taking their place? Well, in Season 19, players can exchange excess dark fragments, phantasmal fragments, and Heraldways pieces for Glimmer. Also, Enhancement Prism and Ascendant Shard costs will see destination material costs removed and replaced with a legendary shard cost, and you can see the changes in the bottom right here. And the next big thing, how are we now supposed to get Glimmer without these planetary materials? Well, Bungie says they're actually going to use this to re-up public events. So in Season 19, public events will be getting big Glimmer boosts, especially the heroic versions. And you can see right here, if you complete a heroic public event, you can expect to earn between 10,000 and 12.5 thousand Glimmer, whereas a normal one will get you nearly 5,000 Glimmer in around that ballpark. Now, Personally, am I going to be spending a bunch of time grinding public events for Glimmer? Probably not. I'm just going to exchange other materials I don't need for Glimmer. Again, it seems like legendary shards can still purchase Glimmer. I definitely have an excess of those, so that's probably what I'm going to keep doing. However, if you're a newer player, you don't have a ton of other materials, yeah, now grinding public events definitely is an option. Another place you're going to see changes is with the Monument to Lost Lights. When you're buying certain older exotics, their planetary material cost is going to be changed to legendary shard costs. And moving on from there, there's a bunch of ghost mods that are now irrelevant, so the 3 materialism mods will be removed at the start of Season 19, and Bountiful Harvest, its mod functionality has changed. Equipping it to your ghost will now increase Glimmer when harvesting from resource nodes. Alright, that's not bad. But also we have some older vendors, specifically Devram K and Failsafe, where you were supposed to turn in planetary material to get old, well now, sunset gear. So Bungie does say they're gonna have their inventories and so on overhauled within Season 19. But moving on from there, we have some big news. Bungie actually goes over a bunch of the changes arriving in the mid-season Sandbox update, patch 6.2.5, arriving on October 18th, so with the launch of Festival of the Lost. So firstly, for weapon archetypes, we have auto rifles. Bungie talks a lot about not necessarily knowing what to do, but in the end, in general, they increase the effects of the stability stat on recoil reduction by about 20% at the high end. And then for precision frame autos specifically, they increase the crit damage multiplier from 1.5 to 1.55, so the crit damage goes from 30 to 31. Now, for bows, Bungie says we want to reduce the effectiveness of max speed bow swapping as a strategy. So what they're doing is that they've increased the bow stow duration, and it varies by subfamily and the handling stat. So before, 0 to 100 handling stat, lightweight frames 0.4 to 0.2, precision frames 0.433 to 0.2, and now after with this change, again, 0 handling to 100 handling, lightweight is 0.45 to 0.3, and then precision is 0.48 to 0.33. So basically, with 100 handling bow, it's going to be significantly less effective than before. With trash handling, you actually won't notice too much of a difference. Moving on from there, for pulse rifles, what they're doing in general is that they've rebalanced the effect of the handling stat across pulse rifles. So the handling stat affects a weapon's ready, stow, and aim down sight speed. So they increase the effects of handling by 5% at the high end, mostly affects the lightweight and adaptive frame pulse rifles, and they've reduced the effects by 2% at the low end, which mostly affects high impact and rapid fire frame pulse rifles. In addition, they adjusted the damage fall-off scale based on the range stat. So with 0 range, they reduced it from 16 meters to 15 meters. And then with 100 max range, unchanged. So basically, if you don't invest in range, you're going to notice a bit of a difference there. Then for adaptive frame pulse rifles, they increased the precision multiplier from 1.6 to 1.65, so the crit damage goes from 30.4 to 31.4. This allows a weapon to kill guardians below tier 4 resilience with 6 crits, which is 2 bursts in 0.6 seconds, which is very, very fast. Then for rapid fire frame pulse rifles, the peace of mind base zoom reduced from 19 to 18, so a nerf there to the peace of mind. Moving on from there, scout rifles. They got some big buffs recently, but apparently high impact frames were running rampant, I guess. So they've reduced the body shot damage from 42 down to 40, and the crit damage from 73.5 to 70. Moving on from there, for sidearms. So they say, interestingly, sidearms have long had substantially less auto-aim range compared to damage range, a decision made many moons ago. So with the removal of the auto-aim fall-off bonus with rangefinder, they felt they had to do something. So in general, they're increasing the auto-aim fall distance by 30%. across the board. 30. So every single sidearm now just got significantly easier to use at range. That's a big deal. Now for submachine guns, here's what they're doing. They say lightweight frame SMGs currently overlap too much with adaptive frame, so they're trying to differentiate them. In general, they reduce the damage fall off and the distance at which the damage dealt by the weapon in hipfire reaches its lowest point from 24 meters to 23 meters across the board. For precision frame SMGs, so 600 RPM, they increase the base damage from 16 to 17, and the crit now goes from 22.4 to 23.8. And they reduce the zoom of the Shira's Wrath and the Adept version and the friction fire from 16 to 15, so a bit of a nerf there. Now for lightweight frame 900 RPM SMGs, they reduced the base damage from 11 to 10.85, and the crit damage is now 17.9 instead of 18.2, so definitely a nerf there. Then for fusion rifles, they reduced the effect of the intrinsic precision frame perk on recoil direction by 50% for fusion rifles only. So stuff like the main ingredient, right? That precision frame, it's going to be a bit more wonky, won't have that perfect vertical recoil anymore. Then for glaives, they reduced the glaive shield damage resistance versus players from 75% to 50%, and then damage from player supers unchanged at 50%, damage from non-players unchanged at 97.5%. So still super effective damage mitigation in PvE, which is very important. Now for sniper rifles. So in general, they increased the settle time after receiving flinch by 60%. They also reduced the received flinch in PvE, thank goodness, and they say now that this had sufficient playtime tests, we're making similar changes to linear fusion rifles in Season 19. So expect Lawrence Driver, again, to get this kind of stuff in the coming weeks. Then for trace rifles, they say they increase the effect the stability stat has on recoil reduction at the low end stat by about 10%, and at the high end max stability 25%. Then rocket launchers, they're actually increasing the blast radius by 0.4 meters across the board. All right. Then for perks, the Gutshot Straight brand new perk, they say they've removed the audio from the activation. Then rangefinder, this was the big one, guys, that they talked about a little bit earlier last week. They removed the additional 20% bonus on aim assist falloff. So you're still going to get a bunch of extra range, right, when you ADS, but you won't have as easy of a time acquiring targets at those longer ranges. Then for Jade Rabbit, they are reducing the aim assist by 20. They're also completely reworking the perk. Then for Lord of Wolves, so when Release the Wolves is active, reduced aim, down sight speed, accuracy penalty, 10x to 3x. They've removed the 25% universal damage buff. They added 40% additional PvE damage, sweet. They removed the 50% critical hit multiplier penalty, and they added full auto as an intrinsic perk. All right, dang. Now for the no time to explain. So they are reducing the recoil direction stat from 90 to 73, and they reduce the aim assistance from 45 to 40, so a nerf there. Then for the Risk Runner, they reduced the damage resistance versus players when Arc Superconductor is active from 50% all the way down to 15%, because it was like the hard counter to Arc 3.0. Moving on from there, for future items, so they say in addition, we want to talk about some upcoming changes. So for special ammo linear fusion rifles, auto aim reduction, flinch tuning. For machine gun balancing, they're going to make them a better heavy option in PvP. They're going to reduce the difference between them and other heavy weapons in PvE, make them less punishing to use for ad clearing, and remove the damage penalty to the dead man's tail at 5 stacks of cranial spike. Again, this stuff is not coming with the next week's update, but further in the future. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.